Osric, a Tufts University student, was taken into custody by masked and plainclothes agents. Her case is part of a broader crackdown on foreign nationals voicing support for Palestinians amid the Gaza war. Rubio confirmed that the State Department revoked Ostric's visa, but did not specify the reasons. He said that 300 revoked visas include both student and visitor categories, all personally reviewed and signed. He added that visas are being revoked for those involved in vandalism, harassment, or actions deemed contrary to U.S. foreign policy. While he did not confirm if Osric engaged in such activities, he said her case met the department's standards. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has met with Suriname's President Chan Santucci in Paramaribo, where he called for a shift in American foreign policy. Rubio said the United States has spent too much time focusing on countries that create diplomatic challenges while neglecting opportunities in regions like Latin America. He emphasized the Trump administration's intent to refocus and strengthen partnerships across the region. He also addressed growing Chinese influence, saying the U.S. wants to offer alternatives to Chinese infrastructure projects, which he criticized as being over budget, delayed, and failing to employ local workers. Residents of an Istanbul neighborhood banged pots and pans in a show of solidarity with protesters opposing the arrest of the city's mayor, Ekrem İmamoğlu, on corruption charges. Crowds gathered on the streets as others made noise from their windows while demonstrators marched through the area. İmamoğlu, a key political rival to President Tayyip Erdogan and a frontrunner in some polls, was jailed on Sunday, March 23rd, pending trial. He denies all charges. Turkey's Interior Ministry reported that 1,879 people have been detained since protests began on March 19, with 260 jailed pending trial. Authorities said 489 were released, 662 remain under processing, and 150 police officers have been injured in the unrest. Rights groups have urged Turkish authorities to investigate what they describe as excessive police force and to allow peaceful demonstrations to continue. Wildfires sweeping across southeastern South Korea have severely damaged a campsite in Yemen country, as light rain brought some relief to emergency crews battling the country's worst wildfires on record. At the Gwoon camping site, some buildings were spared, but others were left in ruins, with debris scattered across the area. Among the structures destroyed were homes belonging to those who managed the site. According to local media, 19 out of 25 families living there lost their homes to the flames. The Korea Forest Service says fire in Yemen have been extinguished in 95% of the area as of early Friday, March 28, while 85% of fires in nearby Andong City, home to UNESCO World Heritage Sites, have also been brought under control. With clearer skies and lighter winds, firefighters and helicopters are working to gain more ground before stronger winds are expected later in the day, according to Forest Service spokesman Kim Jong-gun. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has officially called a national election for May 3rd, kicking off a 5-week campaign expected to focus heavily on cost of living issues. Albanese's Labour Party secured a majority in the 2022 federal election, but recent opinion polls suggest a tight race, with the opposition Liberal National Coalition now polling neck and neck once votes from minor parties are redistributed. Earlier in the day, Albanese met with Governor-General Sam Mostyn to formally request the election. Under Australia's constitution, the Prime Minister must obtain approval from the Governor-General, who represents Britain's King Charles, to dissolve Parliament and call a federal vote.
You choose the way forward. My fellow Australians,
Chilean artisanal fishermen blocked a cargo ship from entering the port of Valparaiso, protesting a controversial fishing law aimed at redistributing quotas between small-scale and industrial fishers. Videos shared on social media showed a dozen boats obstructing the ship's access to the central Chilean port. The protest comes after 2 days of violent clashes between fishermen and police. Earlier this week, demonstrators set several police vehicles on fire, while authorities responded with tear gas and water cannons outside Chile's National Congress in Valparaiso. The unrest followed a Senate Commission's decision to delay a vote on the proposed legislation. Artisanal fishers say their fishing areas have been reduced and are demanding the cuttlefish be exclusively allocated to small-scale operations to help revive the struggling industry. Britain's King Charles has spent a short time in hospital after experiencing side effects from ongoing cancer treatment. Buckingham Palace confirmed. Royal sources described it's a minor issue. The king has been receiving treatment since February last year, following a cancer diagnosis discovered during tests after a procedure for an enlarged prostate. He has since returned home to Clarence House, and as a precaution, his Friday engagements have been rescheduled. Sources say his recovery remains on track, and he continues to work from his study. Just a day earlier, on Wednesday, March 26, Charles hosted a reception at Buckingham Palace alongside Queen Camilla, meeting with media industry professionals. A humanoid robot named Adriano is turning heads in Rome after being introduced as the first robotic employee of the city's Chamber of Commerce. The robot was spotted this week assisting visitors inside the Temple of Hadrian and Villa Sabina, a landmark of ancient Roman history. Developed by the Italian Institute of Technology, Adriano is designed to provide historical and artistic information to tourists while offering a touch of human-like interaction. The robot's unique soft robotic design allows it to mimic human muscles, enabling safe gestures like handshakes and even hugs. During a visit on March 27, tourists like Cindy Price from Minnesota interacted with Adriano, asking questions and receiving friendly responses. Engineers say Adriano's elasticity and compliance make it safe for public engagement, unlike industrial robots which can be rigid and potentially hazardous. An original model of E.T. the Extraterrestrial is taking center stage at Sotheby's. There are such things: 20th century horror, science fiction, and fantasy on-screen action. The iconic figure from Steven Spielberg's 1982 classic is expected to fetch up to $1 million, with estimates ranging between $600,000 and $900,000. It is first E.T. model to be offered at a cushion that closely resembles the beloved alien as seen on screen. Designed by legendary special effects artist Carlo Rambaldi, the model is one of only 3 used during production. The accusation also features additional pieces from Rambaldi's collection, including original 80 sketches and an animatronic study of one of the alien's eyes. And now we move to Mark in our newsroom.
Thank you very much, Thelma. Good morning, everyone. Let's get the latest economic news. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has said that Canada will wait until next week to respond to the latest US threat of auto sector tariffs, with all countermeasures still under consideration. Carney announced plans to consult with provincial premiers and business leaders today to coordinate a response to the tariffs unveiled by US President Trump a day earlier. He stressed that Canada is monitoring upcoming US actions closely and will issue a comprehensive response once the broader strategy becomes clear. Among the possible measures, Canada is considering excise duties on exports such as oil, potash, and other key commodities. Carney signalled a shift in bilateral relations, stating that the old economic and security partnership with the US is no longer intact. Tech billionaire Elon Musk, appointed by Trump to lead cost-cutting efforts, has said that his goal of slashing $1 trillion in federal spending could be achieved without affecting government services. In a TV interview, Musk expressed confidence that the newly formed Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, could reduce overall federal spending from $7 trillion to $6 trillion. The department claims to have saved taxpayers $115 billion as of March 24th. That's through workforce cuts, asset sales, and contract cancellations. However, budget analysts say those savings are unverifiable and plagued by calculation errors. Experts warn that Musk's $1 trillion target is likely unreachable without addressing major entitlement programs like Social Security, which President Trump has pledged to protect.
Shanghai has a gigafactory in the world and arguably one of the most advanced factories.
Argentina's economy minister, Luis Caputo, announced a $20 billion agreement with the International Monetary Fund aimed at stabilizing the country's financial outlook. The deal is expected to boost central bank reserves and help meet debt obligations without increasing overall national debt, and that's according to economists. However, concerns persist over the sustainability of the current exchange rate policy, with some warning that changes could trigger fresh inflation risks. Public reaction is mixed, with some Argentinians hopeful the deal will bring relief, while others remain wary of further financial commitments. The agreement comes as the country battles high inflation and shrinking reserves. Now let's go back to Selma in the studio.
Thank you, Mark, and that brings us to the end of our news bulletin. Here's what I've been covering. Egypt's President El-Sisi reaffirms the urgent need for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza and calls for resumed negotiations. UK and France call for urgent UN Security Council meeting on Gaza's humanitarian crisis and aid worker protection. And Russian President Putin proposes temporary administration for Ukraine to facilitate new elections and conflict settlement. This concludes our news bulletin for the hour. Don't forget to follow Qnews on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at QNewsEG to stay informed. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more updates on Qnews.